This was a very young group, particularly the people who were left on that floor and the people who were involved in a lot of the stuff like you're seeing right here. Joining us now on the phone is WMAQ political reporter Ann Ahern from Chicago. Ann, thank you very much for being with us tonight. I know this is a really busy night for you.
It's a crazy night. It was crazy to be inside. And Rachel, from the minute that we saw this crowd, that really, as you mentioned, they were not Trump supporters. I would say 60-40.
Oh, really?
You know, maybe 40% were Trump supporters. There's no way that crowd was. It was very diverse. A lot of college students. A lot of people who wanted to kind of just come to see the spectacle, but there were a lot of people who also came to cause destruction.
Ann, one of the things that we have seen at other Trump events, going back to, before the end of the year last year, well into this campaign, is that his campaign has sort of policed entry into his events to try to keep large numbers of protesters out. Obviously, some people sneak through, but we've seen things that even made people uncomfortable, where they were looking at people's signs and buttons and trying to make sure that it was really only people who were pro-Trump, and they called it a private event, and they reserved the right to exclude anybody on any means. It doesn't sound like they did anything like that tonight.
No, and from the minute they announced they were coming to the UIC Pavilion, we're right very close to downtown. We're on a college campus that's pretty much a commuter, very diverse campus here at UIC. We were all stunned. This is not the college campus that Donald Trump would go to. You'd go to the suburbs. Mm-hmm. You'd go out into Naperville, out into Lake County, further away from the city. I have never seen a Republican candidate have a rally in downtown Chicago, and I've been here many, many years. So we were just sort of dumbfounded at the beginning that he was coming to this event. And then to see the people lined up, I thought, when is this going to show up? Who's going to be here? And sure enough, lots and lots of folks came, but you knew from the beginning, these were not folks that were supporting Donald Trump.
One of the things that I have been sort of poking at tonight, and I recognize it's a provocative thesis, but I feel like this was deliberately created as a spectacle for political effect. And the reason that I'm saying that, I know it's provocative to say it, but the evidence that I see for that includes the fact that Mr. Trump has increasingly made protesters and the act of throwing protesters out of his events, and his wistful desire that more violence could be directed at those protesters, he's increasingly made that central to all of these events. It's really started escalating in his time in the Deep South for the SEC primary. Over the course even just of today, when he was St. Louis, we saw further escalation from him. It would seem to me to sort of add to that thesis that he was going to be at UIC, that he was going to be in downtown Chicago, particularly if, as you say, there wasn't any effort to make sure it was a pro-Trump crowd.
Right. And we just hung up the phone with the Chicago Police Department because his statement tonight was that he had consulted with law enforcement and decided this wasn't a good idea. Well, he did not consult with the Chicago Police. They have said no. No one called us. No one called the superintendent. They had no idea this was going to happen. They felt that they had this under control. I was in there. I have to tell you, I was a little bit nervous about watching these folks. I thought, I was up on the press riser. I thought, I hope this riser's solid, because I'm not sure where this is all going tonight. You could feel it. It was a powder keg. It was like a volcano about to erupt. The back and the forth, and then as soon as they announced that it was over, it was just wow. I really have not seen anything like it.
Ann, let me ask you about something you just said there about the Chicago PD. We've seen the tape. We played it a couple times tonight, where somebody got up to the podium and set this whole thing off and said, after meeting with law enforcement, Mr. Trump has determined that for the safety of blah, 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 tonight's rally will be postponed. We then got a statement further to that effect from Mr. Trump on Fox News, saying that essentially police told him to call it off. Let's play that. I'll let you hear what he said.
At some point, people are going to get fed up with it. Let me just tell you, Sean, at some point, we had people waiting in line for 5 and 6 and 7 hours to get in. And then they get in and they get shut out, and they get, what you're talking about, right of free speech and all of the other things that we're talking, that we all know. It's so unfair. But you have people that got here at 11 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, waited all day, and then they get protesters, and the protesters all showed up pretty much at the same time, so it was totally organized. They didn't just drift in. They just, boom, all of a sudden showed up. So, at some point, they won't get away with this stuff because it's going to be,
At some point, they won't get away from this stuff. Oh, that's not what I expected him to be saying. Well, what he actually said a moment later, which I don't know why we told the wrong thing, what he actually said a moment later was Mr. Hannity asked him, did law enforcement recommend this to you? And Donald Trump said, yeah, they did recommend it. They strongly recommended it. The Chicago Police Department is not saying that's what happened.
Maybe it was the Trump law enforcement. Maybe he has his own eyes and ears in here because the Chicago police, who aren't exactly, the most willing to just go on the record in a moment's notice and tell us, they quickly answered my call and said, no, we were not consulted. We took not any part of this decision. He never came to the venue. He was not here.
He never came to the venue. They never met with him. There was no consultation between the police and the campaign. The campaign appears to have made this decision independently to set off this firecracker in this room that you're talking about, and they're blaming it on the police. It's remarkable.
Well, I think there would have been a firecracker no matter what, Rachel. There would have been one with him in the room, and he probably would have had to walk off the stage.
Yeah.
There were just way too many people in that room ready to disrupt it.
WMAQ political reporter Ann Ahern. Ann, I really appreciate you being with us. What a night. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ann Ahern from WMAQ in Chicago. Do we actually, because we played the wrong thing, or do we have that other assertion from Mr. Trump on Fox? Can we play that, please?
Now, did law enforcement recommend this to you as well? You have Secret Service protection.
They did. They recommended it. They did strongly recommend it.
Not according to the Chicago PD. This is remarkable. This is going to be an important part of this. I'm telling you. This will go down. This will be described by the Trump campaign and by people who both support him and apologize for him. This will go down as some sort of victimization of Donald Trump. These protesters are so against him. The violence was going to be so inevitable. We had no control. The violence is coming from the protesters. We had to act responsibly to protect public safety and call us this event. The police told us that we'd have to, that they couldn't constrain these terrible anti-Donald Trump protesters. You know what? Let that not be the fake history of this event. The real history of this event is the Chicago Police Department and the University Police Department say they did not see a security threat. They did not tell the Donald Trump campaign to call this off. The Donald Trump campaign created this event. They created the dynamic of violence between their own supporters and protesters. They set this thing up in Chicago. They put it in motion. They got all of those thousands of people in that same room. And then they decided on their own terms and with their own timing to call it off. It's their own creation, their own deliberate creation. Donald Trump, in his interview with Chris Matthews just a little while ago this evening, we'll have that for you right after this.
For a limited time, you can get a great deal